So I am a New York City photographer, and I am very drawn to people. I like faces. I like expression. I love to always think what they're thinking and see if what they're thinking relates to what they're doing. So that is the curiosity that brought me to photography. My name is Priyanca Rao. Thank you all for being here. And thanks Photoville for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is my dream. So this project is about a girl called Rekha. She is from my hometown in India. And the way this whole project started was, it wasn't something I had planned. I want to come up with a project, and this is what I'm looking for. It fell into my lap. And before I started this project, there was a huge question in my head about finding a story and landing on a story, and that the stress of doing that was really eating me from the inside. And everyone said it will come to you, or focus on what you want, and I couldn't translate that into my actual life. So when I took my husband to see this place called Bandar in my hometown of Mangalore, I wasn't allowed to go there as a child because it was very dangerous. But now I'm married and I can do whatever the F I want. So I took him there in an auto rickshaw and I said, let's go there. It's super dangerous. We'll probably get killed, but this is going to be an adventure. It's full of fishes. People are coming in their boats selling fish, moving the fish from the boats to the vendors, and then the vendors take it and go to the market. So it's a whole community of businessmen and women who, mostly business fishermen, who revolve around the fish industry. So I landed in a place that was dangerous and I wasn't super comfortable with, and I wasn't looking for a photography project, and I had the most amazing experience on day one just showing my husband this village. So after I finished that whole experience showing him, I was very drawn to going back and seeing what else I find and digging a little deeper. So I must have spent about a week looking and photographing different people. I hired the auto rickshaw driver as my guide because you kind of need a bodyguard in that area. And on day 5, I stumbled upon Rekha. I was very drawn to her smile. I think it's so beautiful and genuine, and she's also very shy. There's almost like, I don't know what to do. Are you taking photos? Why are you taking so many photos? Didn't you get it? And that was what drew me to her even more. And the other thing that I really liked was her clothes were very colorful. And for me, color is a language on its own, so I was very drawn to it. So this was actually a portrait I took on my first day of photographing her, just in front of baskets full of fish. And I told her that I wanted to follow her and take photos of her for as long as I could. So I'm not sure how to navigate around this booth. What's the best way to, should we all go around? Okay. Or you could just have a peek on this side and come back here, like just right here. So this photo it kind of shows where she works. It's a very male-dominated industry. She's one of the few women there. She also suffers from polio, which you get when sometimes you get it when you're a kid, and then you have it for the rest of your life. So there's a very subtle limp. And there's other ways it manifests visually, but it's very hard to photograph because it's not obvious. So she wasn't one of the most recruitable people in the village. Nobody wanted her to really work for them. So what she does is she helps a little bit with taking the fish off the boats, but she's so smart because she's found a little niche for herself. She picks up all the fishes that fall out of the basket and she puts it in a little plastic bag, and then she goes directly to the fish manager, the monger, and sells it to him in small plastic bags. So she's her own boss, if you like. She doesn't work for a person. And I think her resilience to find a way to work and make money is really amazing, and I was very drawn to it. So here's the colorful village. She's also one of the few women there in the market. So I almost felt like the men, and it's a very rural village. So the men are a little threatening to her. They make a lot of fun of her. They tease her. And it was almost like the sharks were after her. Is that the bottom photo? And you can see her signature skirt. So she wakes up at 3 or 3:30 in the morning. She goes over the fishing village. She starts work before the sun even rises, and then she starts doing all the transportation of the fish. She finishes at around 3 in the afternoon. It's really hot in India. I cannot even describe with words how hot it is. It's like if you put butter outside, you just melt. So she's working out there with her limp, and then when she's done, she goes home and transforms into a different person. So the more I learned about Rekha, the more I was asking myself questions like, what am I drawn to her about her? What is unique about her? One of the things is her positivity. That is really, really beautiful. She's very resilient. She doesn't think of her deformity as a challenge. I've tried to talk to her about it, and she doesn't think of it as anything. She's like, that's how I was born with it. And I'm learn more about it, and this is how I walk, and I'm very happy. So I started switching my perspective too, from empathizing with her to more appreciating her and seeing life from her perspective. In the beginning, when I was doing the documentary, it felt like she was surrounded by all the men in the fishing village, and to me, this was a portrait that shows how the eagles kind of circle around the prey, because they were making so much fun of her, teasing her, especially about her polio limp, and she would just laugh it off. So this is a portrait that shows her her determination and resilience. That is an overview of the village to show you that for me, my eyes always went to her, because she was so colorful and very unique, confident, and hustling all the time. So once she finishes a day in the village, she goes to her slum where she lives. She's also an orphan and has, I want to say 6 siblings. She lives with one of her cousins in the slums. She also doesn't know the date that she was born, so she doesn't know how old she is. So let's go over here, guys. So starting from here, I really admire how she transformed from a really smelly, and I was smelly too. Everybody there is super smelly. You just have fish scales covered all over your body. My mom would hose me down when I came back home, because the whole apartment stunk of fish. So for me, photographing her for almost 2 weeks in the village, I had no idea how she was back at home, and it really surprised me how she transformed. She literally takes soap and water and scrubs all the scales off, and she puts lotion on her face, and her smile has changed. She's combing her hair. She puts oil in it. That's her hair gel. She has a tiny little mirror that's a hand down, and her slum is the size of this booth. So the bathroom is right here, and this is where she sleeps, eats, entertains her guests, all of that. And I'd like to think sometimes when people are photographing others, you might want to show how happy you are for the photos. But the more I dug in, I could tell that she was genuinely happy. She was in that 6-foot hut was her sanctuary. There was nothing she felt that she was missing. She had everything. Her cousin was her best friend. Her neighbors were her community. And after she got ready, she would hang out with them and bring them treats. Even on her way from the bus to the slum, she would stop off at a bakery and buy bread. And I was like, who's this bread for? And she's like, it's for the little kids in the slum area. So always thinking about other people rather than herself. And this is again part of the community that she belongs. Just hanging out and talking, and also being super helpful, asking what other people need rather than herself. So the juxtaposition of her work life and her very wholesome community life is something that I was really drawn to. I feel in New York City, my life here, every day I think, oh, I just wish I hadn't missed the train, now I'm going to be late, or I wish that my kids' school was closer so I didn't have to drop them off all the way, or we're always thinking how our lives could be better. And for me, Rekha, photographing her really opened my eyes to what contentment is and what true happiness is. And I think we could all use a little bit of that in our lives. Yeah, thank you. Any questions, guys?
The photos on that side, how did you, like the one of her and the eagles, how did you achieve that look? Were you on the ground?
I was lying on the ground, yes, yeah.
Same with the boat one?
The boat one, I actually climbed a pole. There's a pole. So this is one of the poles. This one is one of the poles. There was a second pole over here that was really high. So I climbed. You can see this gentleman has seen me over here. But it's a very hectic life. So if you just hang out there for like 2 minutes, people forget they have more important things to do. So they forget. Yeah. And just really waiting for her to go into a spot where she is in the light.
Yeah, I was going to say the lighting works so well.
Yes, it's just being very patient and waiting for that. Yeah. Yeah.
You said so. You spoke about the responses to her, but what were the responses to you being in this fishing area, and kind of how did they respond to your female presence, and what was so different about your positionality?
Yes.
Yeah. Curious
Okay, what a great question. Thank you. So one of the most frequent questions I got was, why are you taking so many photos? Because I would go like click, 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 and they're like, you already got it. And then the other question was, are you going to put this in the newspaper? Because that is, I think, an attraction. If you are, then, and I said, I don't know, I'm just doing it as a project. And then the response would be, last year there was a gentleman who came here and his photos ended up in the newspaper. So I got a lot of that, and I think I was trying to explain to them how I am genuinely drawn to this village and how I grew up there. And in my mind I was thinking how I wasn't allowed to come here. I didn't say that, but I shared my curiosity with them. And once they were happy with that, they just go on, because it's a very full day of work, so there's things to accomplish. Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful project.
Thank you so much.
Have you been back since, and have they been able to see the photographs of themselves?
Yes, a great question. So she lived in a slum that was an illegal slum. It was owned by a property owner developer, and she was camping there. So the developer booted them out and developed apartments. I did go back to the slum. I went back to Fishing Village about 2 years ago to find her, and I couldn't locate her. And she doesn't have, I tried her uncle's mobile number and no one answered. But I plan to keep trying. One of my first thoughts was when I walked here and I saw her face, I got really emotional because I was like, I just wish I could tell her this, and she doesn't know. So she would have smiled like that. Yes, yes, she's going to. We're going to connect. Yes, thank you. Yes. Any more questions?
Time for like one more question.
As a woman who was photographing there, did the men like disrespect you or like treat you any differently?
This was a very tender topic for my mom, and she was very scared. She would express how she couldn't sleep because she knew I would wake up at 3:30 and go to the fishing village. So she felt a little bit better that I had the rickshaw driver. But after a certain point, when I got really comfortable, I got to know people by their faces, and I would try really hard to remember, especially the men, their names, and look them in the eye and say hello. So if something happened to me, there was a trail, like these people saw her with this person. So I was very careful. After some time, I stopped having a chaperone, and the women also really took really good care of me. If any men bothered me or asked me to make questions, they would literally come in the way and say, like, mind your own business, and she's with us. Rekha as well really took care of me, so it was team effort. Yes, great question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.